what I want to do is really look at how rhetorical analysis, remember, is about exigence, which is a problem, audience, who is going to be able to solve this problem, and then the constraints are the limitations of how we could potentially solve a problem and the different challenges that are going along with that. We're going to use that to kind of identify, move this into what it looks like to apply to a particular employer for an internship or a job, or a school for a position. Side note, I was surprised to learn that grad schools would pay you to go there if you get a graduate teaching assistantship or a graduate research assistantship. So I got 2 master's degrees. Both of them, I paid 0 tuition, so that was full ride, and then they paid me $1,800 a month to teach, which was perfect move for me to continue my aspirations to be in a rock and roll band, which we did. Okay. Point being, if you apply to grad school and get in, they let people in, and then there's a smaller amount of people, depending on the program and depending on the school, that they offer funding or teaching assistantships. So you basically do the grunt work for the department, and they pay you to be there. Which was amazed when I learned that when I was a graduating senior. I'm like, how come nobody told me that this was an option? Anyway, what I'd like to do, basically timeline, you're going to find an employer that you're going to write a rhetorical analysis of said employer. In order to write a good cover letter or a good grad school application, you really need to identify what the person or people are looking for that you apply to, right? We know this, right? What's interesting is that we're going to look at the specifics of how to do this in the genre of a cover letter and in the genre of a personal statement. You're going to get to choose whether or not you're going to complete a personal statement for this project or complete a cover letter for this project. If that makes sense. Okay, so there's 2 kinds of questions we should ask first, and one is how to actually find this great job. And I'm imagining we're in school to find a great job. Great. And I asked you on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you know about how to find a great find? How do you find a great job? So just on the note of job searching or internship searching, Samantha, please.
We kind of said about who you know.
Yes.
Your connections with businesses.
I am going to separate this into 2 camps. How do you find a great job? Through the internet or through people? And you're right, it's who you know, but I'm actually going to qualify that even more. It's not what you know, and it's not even who you know. Anybody heard this? It's who knows you. Definitely in the connection new economy that we're in, we're looking at basically, it's not what you know, it's who knows you, and then even further, it's who trusts you. By the way, trust is a function of communication times value divided by time. Actually, maybe not divided by. It would be times time, and whatever, it's a terrible mathematical equation. Trust is about communication and value over time. Okay, so fantastic. I do want to make a distinction that in general, finding work through the internet is fast, finding work through people is slow. However, that might change in different situations. Sometimes, depending on who you know, you can find work through people really well. Great. Other ways to find work are under either of these 2 categories. Because we should probably bear down on this who knows you. How do we do that? How do we get more people to know us? And actually, let's back up. Let's hold on that. Through the internet, just job searches, right? There's job boards on the internet. I'm going to encourage you to use Handshake to find a position, or you find a job posting or an internship posting. There's a really nice job board. There's also a job board through Rampoint. They have just a really informal. So these are two different ones. Pretty sure they still have that job board up there. Other internet search engines: Monster, Indeed. There's one that's dedicated to nonprofit work called Idealist, if you're interested in doing work that helps. There's another giant engine to find work on the internet. It's a social media network dedicated for working professionals to help them hire. LinkedIn. How many of us have a LinkedIn profile? Amazing.
Hasn't been touched in years, but I do have one.
Yeah, it's interesting. What kinds of things do you share on your LinkedIn profile? Interesting question. What things are connected to the professional identity that you'd like to step into? Who's sharing? Okay, this connects to how we move into people, or at least how and why we should look at people. I mentioned that I am bringing in Bill Burnett and Dave Evans' Designing Your Life, How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life, because this book really does some interesting things in connecting to how we find work. Here's some crazy things, some stats from when they wrote this book 5 years ago. What is the success rate, do you suppose, of finding a job for a job that you find online? So you find a job posting online and you apply to it with a cover letter and a resume, and they don't know who you are. What do you think your chances of success of landing that job are? Very low. You want to guess how low? Assuming that you don't know how to write a good cover letter, which we will teach that to you in the next 2 weeks. I think this is skewed. They say 5%, which means how many jobs do you have to apply for until you get one on average? 20. Crazy. If that's not crazy enough, here's the next crazy statistic. How many jobs exist in America that never see the internet? i.e. that there is never a job posting for? What percentage of jobs do you think exist in America that never get posted online? If you're scientifically minded, you're like, wait a minute, how do they even freaking measure that? If they're measuring things that don't get posted, how? So it's widely varied because it's really hard to pin a number down on this, but somewhere between a third and a half of jobs never even make it on the internet. So if you only use the internet to find jobs, you have a 5% chance of getting only half of the jobs that exist. Let's look at that other half of jobs that never see the internet. That's where the money is. And by money, I mean ease. Can someone explain that? Why? How are all these jobs getting filled without even postings on the internet? Lila.
I mean, I guess this is a bit of a personal experience, but in high school, I was actually trying to apply to a bunch of jobs like Panera and whatnot, and
Yep.
then straight up, my friend's parents own like own a vision center, like
Boom.
where they do optometry, and straight up they were just like, hey, we have an opening position that we would train you to be a screener. Would you like it? And I was like, sure. So it's like word of mouth, hearing it from other people. It's the easiest way to get a job.
Yes, word of mouth, hearing it from other people to get a job. Samantha, can you share what you shared with the group about? Are you in an internship now?
Oh, I was, but it was kind of like offered to me because I was doing like a reporting story for a class, and I interviewed a business, and the owner offered me a position.
Whoa. So you didn't know them, but they knew you enough to offer you a position.
Yeah, basically.
And they didn't post that on the internet. They basically was like, hey, we need someone. You could work. Will you do it for us?
Well, they kind of like made a position for me as well, well, so like it wasn't even a job until they offered it.
If you were working for a company and you were in charge of hiring, would you want to create a job listing, post it on the internet, weed through 100 candidates to get to the 9 that you're going to interview? Of those 9, figure out the 5 that you're going to interview, schedule interviews with all of them with your team, decide on who's going to offer the job you're to? Or are you going to try to give it to someone that someone else says is good for the position? Someone that you trust? Why? We like things to be easy. Are we noticing a thread here? So if things can be easy, so basically how do we do this? If I haven't sold you on the fact that the internet, by the way, I'm recommending a 2-pronged approach. I would try to find those really great jobs on the internet and still apply for them. It's not, because you can get those. And some of those really high level jobs, like to work at Tesla, for example, or to like work at, they definitely hire on the internet. They're looking for people, and a lot of these good companies are hiring all the time. But what we're going to look at least, and we're not going to go in detail on this, but I am going to give the technique of how to find people. There's 2 different ways to do this. Whoops. Or actually, there's really kind of one way to do this, but it's given different names. And I'm going to go backwards from this. Information interviewing and prototype conversations. An information interview is when you interview someone else that has the experience or job that you would like. So if you want to be a clinical psychologist, you would interview a clinical psychologist. If you want to be an office person at a clinical psychologist's office, you might want to interview the same, I don't know who you would want to interview. You're basically interviewing other people to get information about them, who they are, bless you, what they do, who they are, what they do, and what you can learn from them. People like talking about themselves. Is this true? People like helping other people. Is this true? So also we could say this is the Career Center has information on this. But you're basically, the process that I found is that they suggested, find people on LinkedIn, search through the Colorado State University Alumni Network. So go to the Colorado State University Alumni on LinkedIn. Look at all the alumni and then filter further in the people that are doing what you want to do, that have 3 to 5 years experience, and maybe even more senior level positions. Now you have a point of common ground. You went to Colorado State University. You're going to Colorado State University. You're considering a job in this field. You're not looking for work. This is the key to this, because looking for work is like you're asking for too much. I can't offer you a job, but I can give you 15 minutes of my time. And then you just want to ask as much as you can about them. How did you get to be, and I would write down these questions, how did you get to be where you are? How did you get to do this? What do you love about your job? What's most challenging about your job? And here's really the kicker. What advice would you give to a younger version of yourself that's considering a career in this? What do you love about what you do? What's challenging about what you do? What advice would you give to someone who's considering a career in this field? What have you learned? What's it like working at, you basically have a bunch of questions, you go in and ask them to learn as much as you can in about 15 minutes. Bill Burnett and Dave Evans talk about these as prototype conversations. Like if I'm gonna design a pen, I don't just design it, I prototype it first. Like I get a good prototype before I go into production. They say we should do the same thing about big life decisions. before you go into teaching, if you decide you want to be a kindergarten or middle school teacher, you might think you want to be a second grade teacher. You should go into a middle school classroom, and you should go into a high school classroom, and you should go into a third grade classroom. And prototype, what's it going to be like to teach 10th grade? What's it going to be like to teach 7th grade? What's it going to be like to teach 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade? You can do the same type of thing in a conversation. You're basically saying two things. I'm lost. I don't know, basically, and can I get directions in a certain regard? What's it like to be you? Let's say you're trying to be a customer service specialist or whatever. What's it like to be a customer service specialist at this company? So, here's what's interesting about this. You are not trying to get a job through this process explicitly, because that's too big of an ask. You're just trying to get other people's perspectives and use that perspective to interview more people. So at the end of the interview, you would say something like, and you're interviewing them, remember. At the end of your information interview, you say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I learned more talking to you than I probably did an entire semester of marketing. That was amazing, which often will happen. Do you know anybody else that I could talk to in this field? So then you're looking for more leads. You end the conversation with, do you know anyone else that I could talk to? This is kind of like speed dating as well, where you know whether or not you want to spend more time with this person or in this field based on what they say really quickly. Here's the deal. When you do this repeatedly, and if you want to take this seriously, I would encourage you to set up interviews with 5 people that are intimidating or inspiring to you. You also, I didn't say, you want to lead with flattery, and it needs to be authentic. Again, this is where the rhetorical situation comes in. You're basically saying, I really like the work that you're doing, or I really like this thing that you're doing. I'm really also, the general other thing is curiosity. I just am curious. Did you have 15 minutes to talk to me about how you're doing? Because I'm considering a career in graphic design, but I'm also considering a career in early childhood education. And frankly, I'm a bit lost, so I'm just trying to talk to graphic designers and early educators about I'm just trying to get some perspective, if you have 15 minutes. What they say is interesting as you're doing this. Let's use a really easy one. I'm interested, I want to do graphic design and content marketing for social media. And I see that that's what you do. When you have this conversation, what ends up happening is that they will say, so wait, at the end of the interview, they'll get curious about you. So wait, are you a student at CSU? Yeah. You're a junior? Yeah, okay. You said you're looking for work now? Well, yeah, kind of. The summer, really, but I'd kind of like to get started sooner. But, oh, interesting. Wait, what do you want to do? I'm kind of looking to do content marketing, kind of social media marketing stuff. And then they go, I think we have a position for someone like you because I like you. Because you've just listened to me talk about myself for 15 minutes. And I like talking about myself. I'm not going to tell you that. I just have a warm, fuzzy feeling about you. I like you. Would you want to work here? Oh my God, are you serious? Well, I mean, I need to check, but I'm just seeing is that something you'd be interested in? Well, maybe, I don't know. It depends on how much you offer me. That's how it goes. So they have tons of stories of people trying to get work through the internet, not working. They set up 5 information interviews or prototype conversations. They use those 5 to get 5 more, and they've got 3 offers in hand within 3 months. You can't do this quickly, i.e. they might not be able to meet you for another 3 weeks. You'd be like, that's fine. I got my whole life to figure out whether or not I want to be a puppy rebounder or whatever the fuck it is. Okay, does that make sense? Here's what's interesting about, can we make some connections to the rhetorical situation? It's not about you, it's about them. I'm trying to figure out what it's like to be you in your situation. Yeah, Sydney?
Sorry, I was just wondering how you recommended contacting these people.
It's really, I didn't. You're gonna need to cold call them or cold email them. And so it's a point of praise and a point of curiosity. Here's another interesting thing, for me particularly, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I'm an educator, an entrepreneur, and a musician. And you might say, what do educators like? Teaching. They also like questions. So I noticed for me, I am a sucker for good questions. If you emailed me and were like, hey, I'm curious about what you do at CSU, what's it like to be an adjunct? You say you're a special instructor, what's that like? That's one thing, I'll be able to answer that. But if you send me a question to talk about that is interesting to me, I will clear off time on my calendar to talk about that question. I am a sucker for good questions. In addition to talking about myself. Love to talk about myself, love to talk about cool questions. So that's how I would do it. Again, you can't just blanket spam people on LinkedIn. Hi, I'm a student at Colorado State University. I see what you're doing is cool. Can we set up a coffee meeting? Who the fuck is this? Is this a robot? Versus, hi, my name is Sydney. I'm exploring this career field and I've been looking at these different companies and I saw this one and I really am interested in this, and then I saw your profile and I don't know why, but something about you, maybe it's this thing, specific thing, made me really interested in what it is that you do. And I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I'm lost. And I'm wondering, like, would you have 15 minutes to just chat about like how you got to where you are? That's how Bill Burnett and Dave Evans recommend how to do it. There is a lot of Google information on information interviewing, how to do an information interview, how to send a cold email. You're cold emailing them or cold calling them, basically. Scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable are you cold calling or cold emailing someone you don't know? How about if they're a super powerful and influential and professional person? That number goes down, right? Practice that shit. What are they gonna say? No? Probably. Practice it. I almost was thinking about revising this assignment because we are writing a targeted cover letter for a job posting that you find on the internet, which is exactly how you shouldn't find work in the 21st century. But it is a really good exercise in rhetorical awareness, and people do find work that way. And it's really hard for me to grade. I would like for you to set up 5 information interviews in the next 3 weeks, type up a transcript of those interviews, and do a self-assessment on how well you think they went and why. That's an extra credit assignment for you. But guess what? If you call someone and be like, hey, for part of my CO 300 class, I'm trying to interview people I respect and admire, click. I don't have time for this shit. I want to talk about myself or my work, because that shit's fascinating. Cool? That's freaking hilarious, because that's how it actually works. Okay, now we need to, in the time that we have left, which is 12 minutes, which is perfect, how does this relate to a cover letter? The genre, so this is basically, we just covered how to find a position, which means interacting with other human beings and being curious about who they are and how they got to where they are. That's all it is. Let's say you find a job that you want, or you find an internship, and applications are closing at the end of September. What are you doing in your cover letter? And here's the interesting thing. It's not about you. This might sound weird. I thought the role of the cover letter was to sell yourself. It is. But they don't care about you. They don't know about you. So you are not saying, don't say how much you need the job. Makes you look weak and needy, and we don't like weak and needy people. I'm sorry, but it's just culturally true. Don't say, and actually there's some exceptions to that. What are you going to say? If it's not about you, what do you say in the cover letter? It's about helping them. And this is really interesting. I also heard someone in this group, I think it was Samantha, say it's really hard in a cover letter to be really confident without being like arrogant. It's hard to sell. Is it hard to sell yourself? I think it is. Some people say no. I think it is. Even if you have a lot to offer. How do you get over that? You use a sense of you're helping them find the right person. So you can be super confident that you would be a great fit for this position while also saying, I don't know if I'm the best. I don't know who your other applicants are. In that kind of a tone. So you're confident, but also humble. And they want to find someone as easy as possible, so you're trying to make it easy on them to decide whether or not you're the one that they want. Which means you're fully aware that you might not be the best person for the job. Right? And you're aware that you would probably be awesome. And you have some questions, so if you could set up an interview to talk about it just to make sure, that would be ideal for me. It's like, oh, really? That would be ideal for us too. We also would like to schedule an interview. Okay, so the goal of a cover letter, I should say, is to get an interview, not to get a job. Most places that want a cover letter are just doing that to as like a filtering mechanism to see who they interview. And now also we need to talk about, we might as well talk about it now. More and more big jobs are using artificial intelligence to read your cover letter. Which, how would they do that? They need a set of skills. And those skills are action verbs. Organize, serve. I can't think of action verbs. That's why I use Google to search action verbs for a resume, or action verbs for a cover letter. Okay, the other thing about that I really just want to emphasize, there's an extra opportunity for reading notes you can do to make up from an old one, or to just add to for extra credit if you've done all the other reading notes, is on ethos. I think a cover letter genre and a personal statement genre is big on ethos, i.e., does anyone remember which one ethos is from ethos, logos, and pathos? Yeah.
Isn't it like your credibility?
Yes. Would we agree that you establishing credibility is especially important in a cover letter? I think so, but how do we do that? What kinds of things do we do to establish credibility in a cover letter? Well, action verbs from language from the job posting, and language from basically the way they talk is one way to build credibility. But the way that he offers in the text is that you want to establish goodwill and a good understanding of the position. So goodwill. Immanuel Kant, famous philosopher, said there is maybe only one thing that is unqualifiedly good, and that is having a good will. Anything else can be used for good or for evil. This pen, for example, whatever. But goodwill, he says, is super, super good. What is goodwill? You want them to succeed. You want Tesla to crush its competitors. You want them to provide the best possible customer service ever. That's why you're applying for Chick-fil-A. Because they have an amazing customer service training program that's nationally recognized, and you want to learn customer service from the best. Which is true, actually. Anyway, whatever. I heard in a previous semester someone leveraged their Chick-fil-A experience to get a really high-end sales job because they have great customer service training. So that means, that goodwill means I might not be the right person for the job, but I want to find you the best person for the job, and I'm applying because I think I am. And then good understanding, I know what the job is. I know all the things that it entails. I'm packing it with action verbs from the job posting and from other job postings on the internet like it. Okay, here's a funny hack. one of my buddies came to me. CSU was hiring a full-time video editor. He does video and graphic and motion graphic design. It was a pretty good job, like $50K a year, just doing video projects, entry-level video projects at CSU. He wanted the job. He's like, can you help me write it? And this is why I'm telling the story. I heard from someone in the program or in the hiring that they scan your cover letter and resume to see how many of the words that you can get from the job posting into your cover letter and resume. So basically, I need to cram all of this stuff in here, but I don't have that much space. And they said I'm supposed to keep it to 1 page. And I'm like, I can't figure out how to get more in there. You teach writing, right? Can't you get more of these words in here? And I looked at it, and the job posting was like 2 pages long. There was like no way to get it all in there. And then I shared that with my class, and someone in my class was like, oh, I know how you can do that. And I'm like, how? He said, oh, you just copy and paste all the words that you didn't fit in the text, put it in white, really small font, and put it at the bottom of the page. That way the machine will read all those words, and you'll get a super high score on the number printout. So I don't know if that's what he did, but there you go. That's how you can beat the machine and get a higher score when it reads your application. Welcome to the 21st century. Freaking crazy. Okay, big picture. If you are going into, and you're going to do this well, you're going to identify somebody particular that you want to serve, and you're going to show them how you want to serve them. They don't care about you. They care about getting the job done. So just a couple more quick notes I can say about a personal statement for grad school. If you are doing a personal statement for grad school, your grad school will normally ask something along the lines of, and this is different, like it's going to be different for medical school, clinical psychology, so on and so forth, but it's some combination of basically, who are you? What are your goals? And how can this program help you achieve your goals? i.e., is this program aligned with where you want to go? What's interesting about this is that the program, ideally, I wouldn't copy and paste. If you're going to apply to 13 schools, I wouldn't copy and paste your personal statement into all of them, at least not the ones you want a lot. You want to say what makes the programs, why this program specifically. In my personal statement, I want to become this. And I'm so excited to work with faculty name drop. Doesn't say name drop here, but name dropping may be one of the best skills in these genres because they know that it's for them in particular and that that human connection is huge. Like, right, we hire people that we know. So if you can say, I really like these particular faculty, and it's hard to really say very much about the students, so I'm not really sure why that's on there, but you're basically, you're looking to say, I'm interested in this program because of these faculty. Okay, this is how to get into grad school through the front door. I would recommend getting into grad school through the back door, like I did in my English education program. How does this work? You set up a bunch of information interviews with faculty of the school, particularly the graduate advisors. You can make it into a road trip. I went to the education department at CSU to look into a grad degree in education. I was appalled at how little I respected the people I talked to in that program. I could not wait for those meetings to end. They were terrible. I left. Because of the program, it was not a good fit. It just did not seem academically rigorous at all, and that's what I wanted. I talked to the education department kind of on the English department, which English has a joint with education. That's a different program. Kind of on a whim. I didn't really think I was going to be an English teacher. I was looking to do something else in education. When I talked to the person there, we hit it off wonderfully. That 5-10 minute conversation turned into a half an hour conversation. She assured me that I could do what I wanted to do in the program, what I was looking for. And at the end of that interview, I was interviewing her, she's like, you should really apply to this program. And I'm like, I think I might. And she's like, no, you really should. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm pretty sure I could get you funding. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, I'm the head of the graduate selection committee. I said, oh, cool. She said, yeah, just make sure you get your application in, and I'll pretty sure that you'll get it. Why? From that conversation, she knew who I was. She knew why I was in the program. She knew culturally that I would be a good fit, particularly in a program where men aren't really represented. So that's one of the things they were looking for, which I had no idea. Does that make sense? Find the people, get curious about them, and then opportunities kind of fall your way if you are authentic and really interested in them. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I am not going to get to give you feedback on your drafts of your essays because that's kind of the work that I'd like for you to do is revise them. However, if you feel like you need help or you have questions, you can feel free to set up an appointment, and if my appointment times don't work, just send me an email. I respond well to good questions. Okay, thank you. Bye.